from the Digital Production Center at Troy University, with news from across America and around the globe. This is Troy TrojanVision Global News.
This is Troy TrojanVision Global News, where we will give you a look at what's happening across the nation and around the world. I'm Victoria Sibina. Here's what's making the news on March 25th, 2015. Sound predictably, certain members of Congress are dismissing a Wall Street Journal report that they basically benefited from Israel spying on U.S. nuclear talks with Iran. President Obama isn't commenting. Michelle Kaczynski has the story.
Did Israel spy on its allies' negotiations with Iran? That's what anonymous official sources quoted in the Wall Street Journal are accusing. Full-on eavesdropping on communications and pulling sensitive details out of informants, all allegedly discovered by the U.S. in turn spying on Israel. Publicly, the administration won't talk about it.
I don't comment on intelligence matters in a big room full of reporters.
We're not going to comment on intelligence matters.
Israel denies it, calling the allegations utterly false. The state of Israel does not conduct espionage against the United States or Israel's other allies, which in itself is interesting since it's well known that allies do spy. And Israel isn't denying spying on Iran, which allies are working directly with. But the U.S. officials in the article are most angry about what they say was Israel's sharing of confidential details with Congress, which members of Congress deny.
Frankly, I was a bit shocked because there's no information revealed to me whatsoever. I'm baffled by it.
And in none of those cases have the Israelis discussed with me anything that I would consider classified or even all that sensitive.
We heard that again and again from a number of members, some of whom suspect it's the White House that used that article to add another slam on Israel's attempts to derail a deal with Iran.
This can't be reduced to a matter of somehow let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. This is a matter of figuring out how do we get through a real knotty policy difference that has great consequences for both countries and for the region.
A major announcement today in Washington relating to troop levels in Afghanistan. President Obama says U.S. forces will maintain their current posture through the end of the year. It's a change in strategy that comes as the Commander-in-Chief welcomed the new president of Afghanistan to the White House. Ryan Nobles has the details.
Some U.S. troops that expected to be home before the end of the year are getting an extended stay in Afghanistan.
This visit is an opportunity to begin a new chapter.
Speaking in the East Room of the White House with new Afghan President Ashraf Ghani by his side, President Obama announced a major policy change.
We will maintain our current posture of 9,800 troops through the end of this year.
Previously, the White House planned to reduce that number to 5,500 by the end of 2015.
It means some folks are going to be rotating back into Afghanistan for a few extra months.
The request for additional time from Ghani indicates the security situation on the ground remains tenuous, with the ongoing threat from al-Qaeda and the Taliban. But U.S. forces will still provide training and support for Afghan forces. They will not take on a combat role.
The flexibility that has been provided for 2015 will be used to accelerate reforms to ensure that the Afghan National Security Forces are much better led, equipped, trained.
Despite this move, President Obama says a final drawdown of all U.S. troops is still planned for the end of 2016, leaving only an embassy presence behind.
We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help Afghan security forces succeed, so we don't have to go back.
In Washington, I'm Ryan Nobles reporting.
A Kentucky community is in mourning after a fatal accident left a fourth grader dead. Jonathan Shenton beat cancer, but on Monday he was struck and killed by his own school bus. Hannah Mortar has this sad story.
It's just really unfair. It's unfair.
Unfair is the only way to describe Jonathan's death. Family friends say the fourth grader had just beat cancer and was supposed to get his wish granted from the Make-A-Wish Foundation this weekend. Instead, the family are forced to say goodbye. We told you yesterday that Jonathan was hit by a school bus and killed on Kentucky 779 in the small community of Rockholds. Kentucky State Police say the driver, 33-year-old Amanda Walliver, was halfway through her route when she dropped Jonathan off at a stop. According to the school system, the fourth grader walked up the bank of the side of the road and then re-entered the path of the bus as it moved forward. Jonathan was pronounced dead on the scene. The crash is under investigation and no one has been charged in the case. The superintendent says 20 other students were on the bus when the accident happened. Today, the district canceled school and released this statement asking for prayers during this horrible time. Family friend Kimberly Bullis tells me Jonathan's father witnessed the horrible scene and the family is simply devastated.
They're in shock. They're speechless. They're in a fog. Her exact words was, she's in fog. It's like she can't fathom it.
Investigators of the Germanwings crash are analyzing the voice record from the plane. We'll have that and more here on TrojanVision Global News.
With more news from across the nation and around the globe, Troy TrojanVision will return in 2 minutes.
Why is my son having trouble in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with my son over his homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No. He's smart, but his mind wanders.
7 wonders of the world.
Why don't you understand me?
I do. I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
Looks like it's done.
Don't let salmonella get funky with your chicken. On average, 1 in 6 Americans will get a foodborne illness this year. You can't see these microbes, but they might be there. So learn the right temperature to cook each type of meat. Keep your family safe at foodsafety.gov.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
The warrior spirit, it's in there. Always has been. Now let it out and take the world by fire. Train well and learn what it means to be a Troy Trojan. Walk with confidence, conquer, claim territory, and climb ladders. Know that you have the power to stand alone, but the comfort of knowing that you'll never have to. Discover your inner warrior. Find it at troy.edu/spirit.
Keeping you up to date with news from around the globe, this is Troy TrojanVision Global News.
Investigators at the scene of the Germanwings flight 9525 crash are hoping the damaged cockpit voice recorder will shed some light into what caused the plane to crash into the French Alps Tuesday. Ryan Nobles has the latest on the investigation and what we are learning about the victims and the 3 Americans killed in the crash.
As recovery crews navigate the difficult terrain at the crash site of Germanwings Flight 9525, we're learning more about the 150 people on board. The victims hail from at least 15 different countries. 3 of them are Americans. 2 have been identified as Yvonne Selke and her daughter Emily from outside of Washington, D.C. Emily, a recent graduate of Drexel University, was honored by her sorority sisters on Facebook. Their family is among the many being promised a full accounting of what went wrong.
A black box has already been found. At this very moment, it's being worked on.
The President of France, Chancellor of Germany, and the Spanish Prime Minister visited the region where the plane went down. Investigators are trying to determine if the crash had anything to do with terrorism, something BEA, the French version of the NTSB, has yet to rule out. Many of the gaps won't be filled until they're able to get information from the 2 black boxes The cockpit voice recorder has been found, but badly damaged.
We need to know what the pilots were doing, what they were saying, if they were communicating.
Meanwhile, the grisly task of recovering the human remains continues high in the French Alps. It won't be easy. It could require DNA checks that may take several weeks. This as the families begin the grieving process, hoping for answers in this terrible tragedy. In Washington, I'm Ryan Nobles reporting.
A biracial beauty queen in Japan is facing criticism for not being Japanese enough. She is half Japanese, half African American. Some say her race doesn't represent Japan's demographic. CNN's Will Ripley speaks with the 20-year-old beauty queen who is overcoming racial hurdles and helping expand the definition of what it means to be Japanese.
In a culture that prefers pale, where white skin is a symbol of beauty, a revolution on the runway. Miss Nagasaki, Ariana Miyamoto, the first ever mixed-race Miss Universe Japan. Beauty queen right now. Walking through Tokyo's fashion district, Harajuku, this 20-year-old model stands out and stands above pretty much everyone. She's almost 6 feet in heels. Have you always been the tallest person in the room growing up in Japan?
Yeah, I'm tall, so no.
With a Japanese mother and African-American father from Arkansas, Miyamoto is Hafu, meaning half Japanese. In a country where around 98% of the population is said to be the same race, this beauty queen was bullied for being different. In school, she says, people used to throw garbage at me. They also used racial slurs.
People encounter discrimination and prejudice here.
Temple University Asian Studies professor Jeff Kingston says Japan has embraced mixed-race entertainers, even athletes. But Miyamoto is the first to break this beauty barrier.
It sends a very positive message about the changing Japan to the rest of the world.
Some feel Miyamoto, who was born in Nagasaki, shouldn't represent her homogenous homeland. No, she doesn't even look Japanese, this woman says. Why not accept her as Japanese? Because half is not 100% Japanese, says this high school student. If someone is chosen as Miss Japan, both her parents should be Japanese. Give me 5, you do high five. Or fist bump. Miyamoto says the criticism of her crown only makes her train harder for Miss Universe in January. I want to tell the world even a half Japanese can represent Japan, she says. The new face of Japanese beauty preparing to compete on a global stage. Will Ripley, CNN, Tokyo.
Angelina Jolie has used her star power to bring attention to another issue, the Syrian refugee crisis. In a new report, Human Rights Watch accuses Syrian rebels of attacking civilians. It says scores of innocent people have been killed or severely wounded at homes, schools, and markets. CNN's Kush Boussar reports.
An all too familiar scene. Screaming people, a burning car, and blood-stained streets. Another attack in Syria's long civil war. This time, it's opposition groups who are responsible for the bloodshed. And according to Human Rights Watch, this attack is just one of many. The group's latest report documents car bombs, rocket, and mortar attacks against civilians by multiple rebel groups over the past 2 years. Witnesses told Human Rights Watch no government military targets were nearby during many of these attacks. One beleaguered Syrian civilian tells CNN he's personally witnessed at least 6 mortar attacks by the Free Syrian Army and al-Nusra Front in his neighborhood in East Damascus.
And what we found is that some rebel groups were making the argument that the abuses by the government excused their bad behavior.
The Assad government has long been accused of using barrel bombs, inflicting indiscriminate carnage by NGOs. Something Syrian President Bashar al-Assad denied to the BBC in February. CNN reached out to a coalition group representing some of the opposition groups. Basil Korkur, legal advisor to the Syrian Opposition Coalition, told us, "We agree with the findings and recommendations of Human Rights Watch. What's going on right now is chaos. It's unrealistic to expect anything less will occur." Khushbu Shah, CNN.
How yoga helps you feel better? More on that after the break.
With more news from across the nation and around the globe, Troy Trojan Vision will return in 2 minutes.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
So they say it's a man's world? I don't see anybody's name on it.
While they were doing their thing, we slowly changed ours.
Today, women can do anything men can do. And there's one thing we're even better at.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Staring contest.
You still got it.
I know. Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
This is Dr. Jack Hawkins. He is the Chancellor of Troy University and a veteran. One of his proudest achievements is helping our military build great careers. That's the warrior spirit.
Now, news for your life from Troy Trojan Vision Global News.
A centuries-old practice is helping modern people who have difficulty moving. It's called adapted yoga. In today's Health Minute, Holly Furfer explains how modified yoga positions can elevate pain and stress in people with physical disabilities.
Let's begin with some breathing.
An ancient practice studied for centuries, yoga has become a mainstream method of exercise to strengthen our bodies and increase flexibility.
Inhaling up.
It's meant to be challenging, but can be especially so if you have a physical disability.
Rocking side to side.
But that's not stopping this group from practicing adapted yoga.
Adapted yoga is just taking those postures, which can sometimes look very complicated, and modifying them to suit an individual person and what they can do. Yoga really tunes you into, if you have a weakened area, really connect with it and do what you can. And that allows, movement in the strengthening direction versus in the weakening direction.
Remember not to pull yourself too much.
Adapted yoga can also help reduce stress, alleviate anxiety or depression, and help ease pain.
People with mobility issues often find themselves in two positions, and that is lying in their bed or sitting in a wheelchair. Feeling that freedom of movement in your body is one of the primary benefits of yoga. Yoga focuses on what you can do, and that can feel really empowering and really, really good.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Holly Furfer.
A family has two reasons to smile. Twin brothers Eric and Roll Montano recently received new hearts at Rady Children's Hospital. Angeli spoke with both boys. She joins us now with how they are recovering and what they are looking forward to in the future.
Thank you.
This is a story
I'm doing good and I'm feeling great.
of two brothers
I told him it's gonna be okay.
becoming stronger
I want to try out playing football.
than ever.
It was good that he got it, and I just kept praying for mine, hoping that one day I'd got it, and I did.
Big brother Raul, who's older by a whole 2 minutes, got his new heart on March 8th, 2 months after Eric. The preemie boys have been through a lot together, and now they have another thing in common.
He was just telling me everything's gonna be okay, and I knew it was because looking at him and he got it.
Both boys suffer from restrictive cardiomyopathy, which makes the heart muscle stiff and unable to pump enough blood. The condition runs in their family.
We're really lucky.
Now, with 2 successful surgeries, the twins' father says he is forever grateful to the donors.
When I see them start walking around, I see the dream came true for them.
For their mother,
I can't really express. I mean, my emotions are still mixed.
The journey,
we're just going to hope for the best.
Hasn't been easy, but well worth the pain.
I listened to Eric's the first time. It was amazing. It was a strong heartbeat, and I just, I just cry.
Raul and Eric say they are eager to get back to school. Eric's classmates had us deliver this Valentine's heart, his 4th grade class, sending along some love. For these fraternal twins, their hearts are not only new, but filled with gratitude.
I just want to say thank you to the doctors for everything that they did for us. They're just so amazing.
The debate over vaccinated children came to the Texas state capitol today. Lawmakers discussed legislation that, if passed, would make finding out which students opted out of vaccines easier. Andon Hammonds talked to both sides of the issue.
That really was tense between both sides of these immunization bills, talked about at committee hearing here at the Capitol. Supporters say it's a public health issue for children, and opponents say it has a different purpose.
Thank you. Questions, members?
It's a committee meeting like any other, but for this woman, it means her child's safety.
When it is about his health and something that can be this serious, it becomes very important to me.
Jill Guerrero's 5-year-old son, Luke, has cancer and is in chemo, so he's more susceptible to disease. As she enrolls Luke, she wants to know how many students have opted out of vaccines.
I need to know about the choices that his classmates have made so that I can protect him as much as I can.
And House Bill 2474 would do that in schools instead of districts, something Guerrero and doctors want.
This is the right thing to do to keep kids safe.
But others don't.
It is about having parents at the school want to find out who is behind that exemption form.
Dawn Richardson testified against the bills.
To pit parent against parent, to use community peer pressure to do the job that the doctors haven't been able to do, is to try and coerce and force parents into vaccinating for all the government vaccines.
She's against both. The other would keep vaccine records open until you turn 25 instead of 18. She wants parents to have a choice on vaccines. But for Guerrero, this choice was easy.
We've got to have this bill passed. Why would we not pass this bill?
Well, that parent said if her only option is to send her child to a school where a lot of people opted out of vaccines, she would have him homeschooled. But opponents say even if a lot of people didn't opt out, that child would still be at risk. At the Capitol, Adam Hammonds, KITV News.
Stay tuned for the news from Hollywood, next on TROY TrojanVision Global News.
With more news from across the nation and around the globe, TROY TrojanVision will return in 2 minutes.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
This is Dr. Daniel Smith. He's an expert in domestic and international economics, but his proudest achievement is helping his students accomplish more than they ever thought possible. That's the warrior spirit.
Keeping you up to date with news from around the globe, this is TROY TrojanVision Global News.
An Oscar winner has a major surgical procedure, and a comedian is honored for his work. Mary Muller has those stories and more in today's Hollywood Minute.
Angelina Jolie has undergone another major preventative surgery. Just 2 years after having a double mastectomy, Jolie has now had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed. The actress says she found out she carries the mutation of a gene which puts her at a high risk of developing certain types of cancer. She says that plus her family history led her to have the surgery. Jolie has lost her mother, grandmother, and aunt to cancer. Will Ferrell is the latest celebrity to be honored on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. The comedian was introduced by co-stars Molly Shannon and John C. Reilly, among others. The SNL vet has starred and appeared in over 40 movies, plus countless TV appearances, in addition to producing and launching comedic website Funny or Die. Damian Lewis is heading back to Showtime, but Homeland fans don't get too excited. Brody's still gone. Lewis is set to star alongside Paul Giamatti in a new drama called Billions, set in the world of high finance. The series goes into production later this year, airing in 2016. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Mary Muller.
Two elephants got the call of duty. A police cruiser winds up upside down, and the tracker trailer has an interesting way of changing lanes. Jeremy Ross has today's Take a Look at This.
It's a pair of pachyderms to the rescue. Louisiana police say a tractor trailer was hauling 3 elephants from Florida to Texas when it got stuck on the side of the road. That's when the driver led 2 of the elephants onto the slope to keep the semi propped up and prevent it from tipping over. Eventually, a wrecker service pulled the rig out of the mud. A scary police car crash caught on dash cam video. Corporal Brad Roberts was chasing a speeding suspect in Oklahoma when his car flipped over on an exit ramp. Police say a Good Samaritan came to Roberts' car, broke open a window, and got him out.
I wanted to get out because I was afraid. The first thing that was going to I was afraid the vehicle might catch on fire.
And to make matters worse, the bad guy got away. Okay, this can't be a legal lane change. A tractor trailer fell off a ramp and landed onto a highway during rush hour in Toronto. The truck driver and 2 other motorists had minor injuries. Police say the 21-year-old driver has been charged with careless driving. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
They always say anything can happen on live TV, but what reporter would imagine an exotic moth would lay eggs in his ear during a live shot? CNN's Jenny Moose has the details that will give you butterflies in the stomach.
We've seen news people bug out over a spider.
Oh, I just don't like that. Okay, I gotta move it.
Swallow a fly. Ingest a grasshopper. Is that? But WTTG's Bob Barnard didn't even realize that this African moon moth was leaving a little love deposit in his ear.
Oh, it bit me. No, it didn't. It didn't. Dan, what do you? I'll let him hang out there.
They actually don't have any mouth parts. They can't eat as an adult. So
thank goodness.
Yeah. The live shot at the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History's Butterfly Pavilion was flitting along.
And this African moon moth is mating with my earlobe.
Bob thought he was joking, but this is one moth that didn't need to be egged on.
The moth was being very friendly.
But the reporter wasn't the only one who got an earful. Next thing you know, the moth was going up the arm of the Butterfly Pavilion's manager.
Who's tired of me?
Flapping in his ear. The live shot ended gracefully, and then...
When we leave the pavilion, we check ourselves to make sure we don't have butterflies on us, and we noticed that there was 2 little white dots in my ear, and then I looked in the reporter's ear.
This is what he saw. The reporter tweeted out the photo of his own ear, saying, "Yuck." Others chimed in, "Yikes. Ooh, so gross." But relax. Turns out the African moon moth hadn't mated, so the eggs were unfertilized, which means that no little caterpillars could have hatched up there. The African moon moth lives for only a few days, but at least this one created a buzz and left a reporter not with egg on his face, but in his ear. Ginny Mo, CNN.
Is mating with my earlobe.
New York.
And that wraps things up for us here on TrojanVision Global News. For a look at what's going on a little closer to home, stay tuned for Troy TrojanVision News. I'm Victoria Sabina. Thanks for joining us.
Stay tuned for more news after this on Troy TrojanVision.